I'm back, as promised, to talk about the other two gods of Relance. We talked about Dorishos in the first video, the goddess of compassion, the most prominent of the three gods in terms of religious followers and in terms of her involvement with the world. The next god is Sourros, the god of logic and wisdom, the only male appearing god of the three gods. He lives out in the far east of the world. It's a wasteland. Many world maps don't even have this part of the world on it. Almost nobody lives out there. It's desolate, it's desert, it's extremely high altitude, it's very inhospitable. And that's where the realm of Sourros is. Sourros, or Sourros, you can say it either way. People on Relance do. And he lives out here, sort of like a hermit. Did you know that hermit means desert dweller, literally? I thought that's pretty cool. But he's out here in his realm. His realm is nothing so fancy as a floating paradise in the clouds. His realm is underground and almost totally inaccessible. There's a long, and very narrow stairway that you can take to get down there. If you can even get out to that part of the world in the first place to find this stairway. And like the realm of Dorishos, it's not as straightforward as just walking down those stairs. There's more to it than that. And if you read the prologue of the Great Galavar, you'll get a very good sense of what that entails. You have to approach with a strong purpose in mind. You have to have the courage of your convictions, and you have to have a clear head, or else those stairs are going to lead you nowhere, and you'll be in big trouble. Literally nowhere. So that is his realm, and we even get to see some of the space inside the realm itself in the Great Galavar at the beginning, and it shows up again in the Curious Tale very early on. Unlike the realms of the other two gods, which we don't get to see until much, much later in the story, we get to see Sourros' realm right away. It's beautiful, but it's austere, it's cavernous, it's underground. It is not like the Carlsbad caverns where the walls are all bare. When you actually get into his realm, there is architecture inside, columns and arches and everything like that. The Sourros is the god of logic and wisdom. I know that not everyone agrees with me, but I don't think those two things are the same thing. But I do think that they share boundaries, that they are adjacent provinces in the realm of characteristics. And Sourros is god of those things. It's easier to associate Sourros being the god of logic and wisdom with his behavior than it is with the other gods and their titles. Sourros' title is correct. It is not only widely believed, it is also correct. He really is the god of logic and wisdom. As for what that entails, well, in a sort of miniature or caricature sense, there's the village of Ache, the village of Sourros worshippers who live excuse me, fairly close to his realm, and they are devoted to logic and wisdom. They're a very sensible culture, not like the Vulcans from Star Trek. I don't think that logic has anything to do with emotion. It is not the antithesis of emotion. It is not exclusive, certainly, to emotion. So the people of the village of Ache are as emotional as anyone, but they're also very sensible, very rational. They cultivate those qualities on the social scale. And Sourros has always been a champion of that. So the third god is Sulvajos, the goddess of self. And most religions seem to need demonic figures, and for most people on Relance, that is Sulvajos. Um, Sulvajos is not an Abrahamic Satan analog, even though there are all sorts of parallels. She lives in the underworld. I mean, that's not strictly Abrahamic, but she is said to live in the underworld. She is most misfortune, most evil is attributed to her by people who are inclined to attribute things to gods. She is believed to be shackled or otherwise detained in her realm, and thus not free to exercise influence over the wider world the way the other gods are. And all of that is just about completely wrong. She's definitely the most misunderstood of the three deities. But there is some fairness in the beliefs, because her title, like Dorishos' title, is both somewhat descriptively correct and also somewhat incorrect in terms of her true nature. And the reason that Sourros' title is mostly correct, but that Sulvajos and Dorishos have kind of iffy titles, is also a part of the story, and you'll be finding that out eventually. So there's reason to the rhyme here. She does live in the underworld, or literally underneath the world. She lives at the exact center of the world, where Junction City is, except instead of in the city, she lives way underneath it. I think in the RPG it was 100 miles below the surface. I don't have the exact figure for the novel. I haven't needed to come up with it yet. But she lives well underground. She's most commonly affiliated with the Guild of Pabol, the Thieves Guild. And like I said, all sorts of misfortunes are attributed to her. She's also set up as the opposite to Dorishos, who I mentioned is the most popularly worshipped of the three deities. One lives up in the clouds and is compassionate and is involved in the lives of people, and one is evil and locked away underneath the world in her realm. And Sulvajos has this title, the Goddess of Self. And in many Relansi cultures, that's seen as a bad thing. Individuality in general, and selfishness in particular. That's not so different from our own culture. We pay a lot of lip service to individuality, but really we place more emphasis on conforming and on upholding the things that we believe in as a society. And you'll learn that pretty fast if you go out of people's comfort zones and start saying that what you're for is something that society is not for. Excuse me, can I get some water? My hoarse throat never really goes away. She is associated with choice, with individuality, with selfishness, and in many parts of Relance, these are not considered to be positive things. My oven just beeped. I'm cooking turkey breasts. I can't believe... well, I guess the timer says yes. Anyhow, I'm going to have to make a third video to make some final points. I'll let the oven go for a few minutes, though, and I'll take this video a little longer. So those are basically the three gods. There's the goddess Dorishos, the goddess of compassion, up in her cloudy realm above Dvorange. And then there is Sourros, the god of logic and wisdom. He is out in the eastern part of the world, deep underground. And then there is Sulvajos at the center of the world, but very, very far underground. depending on which religion you're looking at and who you ask individually on Relance, many people would say that Sourros is the highest of the gods and is the most powerful of the gods. People always seem to be concerned about which gods are more powerful than which other gods. That's not really the best way to look at it, but it's the way a lot of Relancy cultures look at it. So as the reader, it behooves you to think about what the people of Relance are thinking about. Many other people believe that Derishos is the most powerful of the gods, and that she is the highest of the gods. And not surprisingly, many of the people who believe that it's Sourros are Sourros worshippers, and many of the people who believe that it's Derishos are Derishos worshippers. Sourros is most commonly worshipped in the Empire of Penathar. I don't think I said that. Outside of that, he does have his followers elsewhere, but definitely in the minority. Definitely in the minority. Derishos, like I said, is far and away the most popular deity. Sourros does have some involvement in people's lives, not nearly as much as Derishos does, and it's much more heavily concentrated in the Empire. Sulvajos, her influence is more indirect. I'll leave it at that. But she does have influence on the world too, and she does have followers beyond just the Guild of Pabul. There are people who are drawn to this concept of being for yourself. I find it compelling. Actually, I find all three of the gods' philosophies compelling, which is a fair cry different from many real-world deities. I guess it's because I don't have to worry about people actually worshipping these gods. I love fictional deities. They're a lot of fun. You can tell a lot of great stories. With real-world deities that people actually believe in, all you get is trouble, and it takes the fun away. But with these deities, no one in real life is saying that they're real, and so I guess it's easier for me to see the appeal in them. In any case, I like big parts of all of their messages, which isn't to say that the gods are good. They're not that simple. They do many things that people would recoil at or would call evil. Even the gods that people worship, the gods are dangerous. The gods are like fire. You can certainly derive great good from it, but fire, you don't want to mess with the gods. That's very Greek in its sentiment. All of my gods have os endings. I was thinking of that. I was thinking of Greece when I originally created them for the RPG. Thinking about how Greece had so many different gods, and they were so down to earth in a way that monotheistic religions just don't know how to be. And my friend Caro recently mentioned that the Greek people could venerate their gods and laugh at them the same time, which is why these gods are always depicted as being so petty in Greek stories. Relance's gods are not strictly in the Greek tradition by any means, but they're closer to that than to Abrahamic religions, for sure. Do I want to make one more video? It's 14 minutes. I was talking about the power of the gods, who's more powerful, because that's but you know what, maybe I'll just leave it at there. I've been talking at you for a whole half an hour. Maybe that's good enough. Leave them wanting more and all of that. So thank you, as always, for joining me. I'll be back September 27th, if not earlier, with another video, and I hope to see you then. If you've got any questions about the gods, feel free to ask me in the comments or come on over to my journal. It's the-sinistral, I'll link to it in the description, .livejournal.com. If you're seeing this video in the future, check out curioustale.org. That's where you'll be able to see about the gods in the encyclopedia. So, until then, bye.